On this episode, we will explore the duality of viral fame and personal grounding. We'll talk about how her upbringing shaped her priorities, why she's chosen to keep her day job, and what it means to be both seen and secure in an instant attention age. I'm joined today by Teresa ReesaTeesa Johnson, creator of the viral social media series, Who the F Did I Marry? She made international news when she created a 50-part series on TikTok, which has garnered over 450 million views and impressions. She has been featured on Good Morning America, The Tamron Hall Show, CultureCon, and Rolling Out Magazine, just to name a few. Reesa has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. She studied international law and counterterrorism in The Hague in the Netherlands. She loves storytelling and is passionate about encouraging people to use their voice to share their experiences. Welcome, Teresa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to take it back a little bit. What made you hit record on the first Who the F Did I Marry video?
Uh, Basically, it really was a situation where I was in
Mm-hmm.
therapy before I did the 50-part series, and I felt like my therapist was not paying attention. Like I felt like
Ah,
she was not listening to me.
interesting.
And it was a mixture of frustration and just perfect timing
Mm-hmm.
because I made a video answering a question of what's the most effed up thing your ex has ever done.
You're like, I got
And I
something.
made a video talking about how my
Mm-hmm.
ex-husband lied about his grandmother
Mm-hmm.
dying. And a lot of people were like, "What? Like you got to tell us more. Like
Yeah.
what happened?" And it really was just a situation where that night I just said to myself, "You know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and put the whole story out there from start to finish.
Wow.
And if nothing else, at least I'm getting it off my chest.
Uh-huh.
Somebody will watch it. Somebody will hear the story since I felt like I wasn't being heard when I was in
Yeah,
therapy."
that's so fascinating. Of course, I want to understand what was happening when you were in therapy. So you were explaining what you'd been through, and were you just not feeling like anyone was understanding the magnitude of what it was, or like validating that experience, because it is wild.
I think that it was a combination of I felt like she really just was not listening.
Mm,
Um, because the therapy wasn't just about the marriage. The therapy was kind of about the
I
aftermath.
see.
And I felt like we just weren't connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really would leave some of our sessions and feel like she did not pay attention to a word I
Wow.
said. Because some of her advice would sound very much like, how was that going to help me? Like, did you hear what I just said? And so that's the reason why I felt the way I
Yeah,
felt.
that makes sense. And I mean, then when you shared just a little bit of your story, then you saw how people were really intrigued to hear the rest of it, which is, so you knew that there were some people who were going to hear you, but you probably didn't know it was
Mhm.
going to go viral. So when it took off, how did you realize you'd gotten to that point? What was the defining moment?
It took a while for me to realize that it went viral because I kind of feel like a story can go
Mm.
viral and then there's levels to going viral. So
Yeah.
for me, when I had someone who told me, "Girl, you were all over my Facebook." Okay, I kind of had an idea that it went viral.
Yes.
Then when one of my bosses said everyone at work is talking about it, I kind of felt like, okay, maybe it's gone a little more viral.
Yeah.
But really the moment where I said to myself, oh, like, oh shit, was Good Morning
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
I think the moment that you get a phone call to be on Good Morning America is when you realize that this is much bigger than what you
Yeah.
thought. And plus, people were sending me videos of like news stations across the country talking about my story.
Wow.
So I kind of saw like, wow, this is much bigger than Atlanta.
Yes.
This is much bigger than, my area in Georgia. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, for people, I don't know if there's anyone out there who doesn't know the story now, but can you just kind of give us an overview of everything that you shared in your 50-part series?
yeah, I basically sat down and I told this story of how I met, dated, married, and divorced my
Mhm.
ex-husband, whom I believed to be a pathological
Mhm.
liar. I talk about how we met and where everything seemed to be going good, but there were there were these intuition red flags that I did not pay attention to. I was 35, I wanted to be married, I wanted to have a
Yes.
baby, and I ignored a lot of
Mhm.
red flags. I didn't listen to the voice that was telling me something isn't adding up. And eventually I discovered the multitude of lies, things that, really and truly changed my entire perspective on
Mm.
relationships and just how I saw the world because there was nothing he wouldn't lie about.
Yeah.
And at the end of this story, I talk about the only thing I could prove was his name and date of birth.
Wow.
That was the only thing I could.
Yeah. I mean, and for you to have that experience, you said it changed you. Tell me about the ways that it
Mhm.
changed you going through that, and going through that, and then also I want to talk about how it's changed you sharing that experience because not only did you go through it yourself, but then now you shared it with other people and they're probably telling you their stories and maybe you're reliving some of that as well. So first, how did it change you?
I mean, when you're in any relationship, the goal is to come out better than how you went in. Like
Yes.
that would be good. That
Yes.
the person you're with makes you better.
Mm.
For me in this situation, it is very, very difficult to trust anything anyone says.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say anyone because people who were in my life before I met my ex-husband, obviously we've built that trust, we've built that relationship. But going forward, it is truly a
Mm.
struggle to simply believe, hey, I was working late.
Right.
It's a
The
struggle to
smallest
believe
things.
that the smallest things.
Yeah.
It's a struggle to believe that that phone call
Mm.
is a real phone call. Things that people laugh at in watching the series, I tried to remind them, no, like this is really something I struggled with because most people have never encountered a pathological liar.
That's right.
So you don't know the links that they will go through to lie to you
Mhm.
and the mind games that it plays on you.
Absolutely.
So trust is definitely something that's really difficult.
No, I mean, it makes sense because when you see that someone's lying about things that you don't even need to lie about, it's not even it's just
Mhm.
why and you don't understand and it kind of makes you question yourself. How did this happen? And I know, when we've talked about it a little bit before, you said you're not the kind of person you would imagine would ever be in this situation. So then, being in that situation and then sharing it publicly. Yeah. So when you have new people into your life or if you're looking at a new relationship, what is that experience like for you now?
I kinda shun a new
Yeah.
relationship just because there's a lot of parts of me that just aren't healed.
Mm.
So, I know this, and I feel like to get into a relationship, I don't feel like I'm in a position to give it 100%
Yeah.
because I'm not 100% myself.
Yeah.
So, the most that I can do, the most that I can offer, and the most that I can accept is friendship
Mhm.
because it's almost like I don't even wanna think about the romantic side of it, like, can we just be friends? Like, can we at least build a rapport with each
Yes.
other? And perhaps with friendship comes respect,
Mhm.
comes that trust.
Yes.
So that's what I've been focusing
Yeah.
on.
I mean, I think it's really important, Teresa, because a lot of people don't realize that they need to take that beat and heal from relationships. I mean, every relationship, right? But especially, like when
Mhm.
you have something like this, because you have to, rebuild trust with yourself and trust with someone else, before you can really move forward. So, it's good that you
Yeah.
know where you are and are not trying to jump into something else. I think that's fair.
Mhm.
Yeah. You mentioned
Yeah.
that people at work, have been saying things to you. So you've kept your 9 to 5, which I mean, after the level of success and notoriety that you've had, like I really want to understand, what made you decide I'm going to keep this job and I'm not going to, give up everything for this newfound fame.
Well, to be fair, it's once again, it's a combination of a
Mhm.
few factors.
Mhm.
Number 1, social media has a way of making you think you were rich because you went viral. But social media does not I I'm grateful that when this going viral happened, I
Mhm.
was a bit older. I mean,
Mhm.
this all happened
Yes.
at 39. The
Okay.
story happened at 35, but I went viral at 39. So there is a level of wisdom that's playing into into the fact that you need that insurance. You need
Yes.
vision, medical, dental insurance.
Mhm.
But then also, I feel like it's just not wisdom to put all your eggs in social media
Yes.
because social media is very fickle. And I need this, I want this stability of my 9 to 5.
Mhm.
I know when my direct deposits are gonna hit. I know how much money I'm working with to pay my mortgage, to
Mhm.
pay my bills, things that you probably don't think of at 25, but at 39,
Yes.
you know better. So
Yes.
you just gotta be mindful that we are in a very, very weird economy.
Mhm.
I again, if you're going to leave the job, and I understand that it will happen where I'll need to leave, but I would be more comfortable leaving because I'm going into another job that's more money, more consistent,
Yes.
stable money.
Mhm.
And social media is not really the most consistent and stable money, career wise, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
No, I think that's right, and I'm sure you're right that having that maturity weighs in there because I think that when you're younger, you think, "Okay, I'm gonna have this forever, and I'm gonna be able to make a
Mhm.
living off of this," and, when you do have a little bit more experience, you're probably more measured in the decisions that you
Mhm.
make. And I know you've
Yeah.
also mentioned that, the way that you grew up, wanting more stability for your life, as you grew up was really important for you. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I'm originally from New
Mhm.
Jersey, and I credit my mom. My mom was a single mom, and she was at one point she was on welfare,
Mhm.
and she worked her way off of welfare, you know, doing what she had to do to make ends meet. But there was a moment when we lived in New Jersey where we moved around a lot
Mhm.
because it was kind of hard to keep a roof over our
Yeah.
heads. So we would stay with either my grandparents or people from the church that I grew up in. And so, for example, second grade, I had 3 different teachers. I went
Wow.
to 3 different schools. So, it has always been very important to me as I get older and as
Mhm.
an adult, I stay put. Like, if the job is good, even if it's not the best job in the
Yeah.
world, I will not leave it
Mm.
unless I'm literally going into another job within about a week or 2 weeks. Um, and even, the job that I had in the story where I
Mhm.
worked at State Patrol, it took my ex-husband laughing at me because I wanted to eventually afford a BMW that pushed me to kind of say, all right, I'm gonna go find me another job. And I literally left State Patrol on a Thursday and started my job, my new job on a Monday.
Wow. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. But it's understandable too, right? Those kinds of, like, bargains kind of that we make or promises that we make to ourselves when we're young. When I get older, I'm going to have a life like this, or
Mhm.
I'm not going to worry about
Yeah.
these things, right? And so for you, that was I'm going to have this stable situation and I'm going to make sure that I don't have to kind of do different things on a whim and like I'm going to be in more control of my destiny. And it sounds like you
Yeah.
are. And it's so interesting to me, Teresa, too, because balancing that with then sharing your story so publicly, because there's this one side that's very I mean, I don't know if you'd consider yourself generally a private person, but I get the sense very grounded, and like this is me, this is what I'm going to do to keep myself safe. And then, taking that chance and sharing your story, sounds like a different side of you.
Yeah. I mean, I never really considered myself necessarily private.
Mhm.
I just considered myself like a normal, average,
Yeah.
everyday woman.
Yeah.
So going viral kind of it does open you up, but you didn't realize it was going to open you up the
Right.
way it did because
Yeah.
I wouldn't have considered myself private. I just would have said, "Oh, I'm just me." Like I'm just a
Yeah.
woman who
Interesting.
lived a crazy experience and shared it. I didn't think it was going to go, as international as
Mhm.
it did because you could never predict going viral. But now there is definitely more of a conscious effort to be very careful on what you
Mm.
put out there
Ah.
and be a little more mindful of, okay, keep certain things to yourself because once you put it on the internet, it's on the
It's
internet.
there. It's
And
there.
you're going to get what comes with putting things on the internet.
So keeping that in mind, what are things that you like now, if you had it to do again, that you might do differently than you did before?
I would have still told the story, but
Yes.
I would have taken better care at There's a few things. Number one, I would have made sure that everyone, as best I could, remained
I
anonymous.
see. Mhm.
There were mistakes made where I shared people's real names.
Mhm.
I would not have said certain information. Like, I wouldn't have said the date that I got married.
Okay.
I probably would not have said, "Oh, I worked at Georgia State Patrol."
Mhm.
Little pieces of information that could have eventually put my real identity out there, which then was a domino effect to find
Ah,
out his identity and
I
to find
see.
out other people's
Mhm.
identity. I still would have put the story, the way that I put it up was intentional,
Mhm.
and I still would have done that, but I just would have taken better care that you keep people as private as possible
Yes.
and you don't expose anyone, even him.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, because I'm sharing my experience, but the internet has a way of finding what they want to find, and I think that
They do.
way I underestimated the
Yes.
internet a little bit.
Well, and it's also like we said, it's not that you could have imagined that people would be so into the
Mhm.
story that they're going to try to find all of this information. But were there consequences of other people in your life, kind of being related to and finding out about them?
So, luckily, no one in my life,
Mhm.
um, their identity was put out there.
Okay.
But there were people who, for example, one of his
Mhm.
ex-wives, because I had said her actual
I
name,
see.
her identity was put out there. And that is something I regret because she did not ask to be a part of the
Mhm.
story. And as you can see in the series, I'm simply just telling you what
Yeah.
happened.
Yes.
And I didn't storyboard it to say, okay, for every person, I'm going to change their name to
Mhm.
something else. I'm just talking
Yes.
and getting it out. And that's kind of the mistake that I made where you're just talking and you didn't filter to change her name. And
Yes.
so because of that, her identity got out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I understand. Yeah. Hindsight, right? Thinking about it
Mhm.
now. So how did all of this, I guess at the time, back when the story first came out and you saw it was going everywhere, you were being asked to go on different shows and talk about it. What was your mental health state then? And then let's talk about it, how it is right now.
So in the beginning, when it was taking off, there was definitely a shift
Hmm.
where there was a large group of people who simply were entertained by the story.
Okay.
And everyone's talking about it like, "Oh my God, what part are you on? What part are you on?"
Yes.
And I was fine, I
Hmm.
was fine with that. Then it turned into a lot of negativity. And
Hmm.
I talked about how for about the first 2 to 3 weeks, I was inundated with negative.
Mm.
It seemed as if my algorithm on TikTok only showed me the negative think pieces, and I saw the negative comments and the negative videos, and I was bombarded with it.
Yes.
And it was surprising. It wasn't until really after Good Morning America that there was a shift
Mm.
where then I saw the encouragement. Then I
That's
saw the
interesting.
positive remarks. So first starting out, oh, my mental health took an absolute hit.
Yes.
It took a hit because there were videos about the way I talk, videos about how I look, videos about my size,
Mm.
videos, I did what I thought was best by owning my portion of the story and saying, "Look, this story is not gonna make me look good, but Imma own it."
Yeah, you really
And there were
did.
still people who tore me to pieces,
Mm.
basically.
Huh. I mean, like as we were saying, the internet can be a dark place sometimes.
Mhm.
And not always people's, best angels come out. But what do you think what happened with the Good Morning America? Do you think that people started to see you like not as a story, but as a person? I wonder what that shift was.
I do think that some of it was, "Oh, she's not a caricature, like,
Yes.
she is
Yes.
a real woman." I think that the Good Morning America and the Tamron Hall,
Hmm.
I think the Tamron Hall helped because for Tamron Hall, there was actually a moment where I was emotional, even with the Good Morning America, and I think that it resonated with people like,
Yes.
"Oh, wait a second. Yes, it was entertaining. Yes, there were some funny moments, but like she really got hurt off of
Yes.
this." And
Yes.
so I think that that's where I like to say I think the positive was always there.
Mhm.
It's just sometimes we listen to the negative more than we do the positive.
Yes.
I think that there were people always sending me messages in my DM saying, "The same thing happened to me. You're
Mhm.
not alone."
Yes.
But I was unfortunately a little more focused on the negative.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, well, look at her size. Like, did she really think that she was, going to meet a VP?" Things like that. So, um, I think that it's important to always be authentic, not
Mhm.
only in your storytelling, but even in your interviews,
Yes.
is still be real. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
still don't ever be afraid to show, look, this messed me up and I'm doing the best I can.
Right, exactly. Because, I'm sure for that time when everyone feels entitled to share their opinion, with you, and you're still getting used to the idea of this even being a thing, that it
Mhm.
can be hard to realize how much it's affecting you, sometimes even until afterwards.
Yeah.
How have you taken care of like your mental health, with everything that's been going on?
Right now, for one, I made a decision, I don't respond.
Okay.
Very, very,
Yeah.
very seldom will I respond.
Right.
I think to date, I have not made a video to kind of defend myself or say
Mm.
anything because it's more energy.
Yes.
And I'm tired of spending energy that I need for something that is way more lucrative.
Hmm.
So that's the first rule for myself is I'm not responding. Number two, I have developed a block game. I will block someone quickly because
Yes.
it protects my peace
Yes.
and it costs me nothing to block an
Mhm.
unknown person or entity
Right.
if it's causing me any form of distress. But the biggest thing is I don't read comments.
Mm.
I just don't. Um, Nothing good comes from it.
Nothing.
Nothing good
Every time I
comes
read
from
comments on something, I'm like, "Why did I read that?" And even if
yeah.
it's not even about me. It's just there's so much negativity sometimes, and people feel very confident sharing that with
Mhm.
the world in a way that's just like it's not productive. I love your
It's
boundaries though.
not.
I think those are
Yeah.
really good boundaries that you've established because I could imagine it would be tempting at some points to try to defend yourself, whether in the comments or making a video, or to look for the positive comments, or the
Mhm.
positive things that people are sending you. But knowing what comes along with that, I think there's probably a lot of growth that you've had to say like it's not worth it to me to filter through and see
Yeah.
the nice ones. It's not going to be worth it to me.
And not only that, but I understand that I'm understanding the game of social media, which
Mm,
is they say the most vile things
vile.
to get a reaction.
Yes. Yes.
And if you respond, you're giving them exactly what they
Yes.
want. So there is this petty Aquarius stubborn side of me that's like, I'm not saying anything. And I'm gonna just let you be mad that you didn't get a reaction out of me, even though you kinda did. It's just that
Yeah.
it's in the privacy of my home. But yeah.
Yes. Yes, that's right. No, because I mean, as we're saying, like, you are human. That hurts. Even if it's someone you don't know on the internet, like someone you'll
Mhm.
never meet, it's still like why would you say that? Now it's on your mind. So I think those
Yeah.
boundaries that you've created, with those kinds of negative experiences have probably really helped you out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is an ongoing process.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm Gandhi because I still have moments where it does bother me, but I had very, very thin skin when this started,
Really?
like paper thin. And people would say things, people would write things, and it would hurt.
Mhm.
And I would go down this rabbit hole where one night I was on TikTok for like 3 hours straight looking at videos of people talking
Oh my
about me and how
goodness.
dumb I was and how
Ugh.
stupid I was and desperate. And, now again, life has a way of toughening you up.
Mhm.
It really does.
Yeah.
But I feel for anyone who goes viral and they don't have a community around them to
Yes.
kind of say, give us your phone.
Yes.
I feel for them because it does take a toll.
Mhm.
And I'm a grown woman and it took a toll. And so I can just imagine a 20 something year old who, did something maybe not so smart and the internet is just
Tearing them apart.
throwing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're mentioning, having your boundaries. You mentioned that you having a community. Tell me about like what your community has done for you and how they've been there for you through this whole. Because I'm sure it's your life, but I'm sure for like your friends and family, they're also seeing someone that they care about going through these ups and downs. Where sometimes it's something amazing, this great opportunity, and sometimes it's just really painful. So how has your community played a role in your journey?
So everyone in my personal life knew the story
Mm-hmm.
because they lived it with me.
Yes.
So for them, it's like they've been saying since day one, girl, this is gonna be a lifetime movie. Like you need to write a book. So when I put it out there, when I told my family, it took a while for them to even find out that I went viral because they're not heavy on
Yeah.
social media. But when I did put the story out there, there were things in the story they did not know because I
Really?
did not share a lot of stuff with them. So they were watching the 50-part series kind of in real time with the rest of the world. And they were just like, I can't believe he did this. I can't believe he said that. But then once they saw how viral it went, for them, I think it was a matter of look, watch what you say because that's still my niece or that's still my
Yes, I'm
daughter
sure.
or that's still my so, y'all can watch the 50-part series, but watch your
Yes,
mouth. So
exactly. Easy,
so
easy.
we don't have any issues. Um, and my friends were kind of the same way. They would be
Mm,
like, "Girl, I was in a nail salon and they were talking about,
yes.
who the F did I marry?" And she was like, and if they had said one wrong thing, uh, you know, so, that's how they are. It's
Yeah.
like we've known about this. We met
Mhm.
him. We knew all that was going on, but to see the rest of the world react to a story you've known for years, I
Yeah.
think for them it's like, wow, this is they've been saying that a lot. Like, I cannot believe this is happening in a very positive way, but like,
Yes.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, that makes me think about what you're saying that you had red flags. There were red flags, and you ignored them for all the reasons. Like, do you remember like looking back on conversations that maybe you had with like friends or family, who are still here now and here on the other side, where there were things like, oh, I don't know about that, but it should be fine, or he was reassuring about this. Like, do you look back on those conversations now and think about um moving forward, like the things that you won't ignore, or the things that you'll pay closer attention to, and not just romantic relationships, just, with people in general.
I definitely have a newfound a newfound love for my intuition,
Yes.
because unfortunately, it cost me a great deal by not listening to it.
Yes.
Um, there was never a time where friends and family were like, "Oh, we love him."
Oh,
There
really?
wasn't
Never.
no. There was never a time where we love him, like, "Oh, he's so awesome." No.
Interesting.
There was always, "Hmm." It wasn't loud, if that makes
Okay, it
sense.
does.
Their red flags were not loud. It was me that I remember having a conversation with my best friend,
Hmm.
and I said to her, I said, "I don't know what it is, but there's something." And she was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, I don't know. I can't put my finger
Huh.
on it, but there's something." So when I got married, my best friend was very much like, "What? You you did what?" Like, because the something had
Hmm.
never been answered.
I
And
see.
so, it was really a situation where I think that a lot of people, and it's interesting that we're recording this now because literally 2 days ago I went to a birthday party of a friend
Hmm.
and he told everyone, he was like, "Yeah, we had met him," and he said, "I knew something wasn't right about him." And I was like,
Really?
"Why didn't you tell
Because
me?"
it doesn't
And
work to tell people.
his words to me were, he said, "'Cause you were happy." And
Mm.
he said, "And it wasn't my place." And I think that that's the mentality of a lot of people where there's that thin line
Yeah.
between, "Man, my friend is happy, and I don't wanna rain on her happiness." but something don't seem right about that dude.
Right?
And they don't say anything.
Uh-huh. Huh.
And that was kind of what happened in my case. I'm just now finding out that they felt like, yeah, we knew he was lying.
But that's
We
interesting
knew he
because
was
I think to your point, if you can't put your finger on it, it's hard to go to someone
lying.
who's in love and have like so enjoying their life to say like, I don't know, like I've got weird vibes about this person. And if you were to ask what is it, and they wouldn't be able to name it, right? Same way, like you could something just felt off. But if when we don't have a very clear idea of what it is, it's hard then to share that with someone else, you know? And I wondered, like, do
Yeah.
you think he would have listened? Because I know, like, I've been hard headed in love before. So,
No,
yeah.
I think I was so focused on getting married,
Yeah.
and I feel like I was focused on getting married, and I saw, excuse me, I saw the house at the
Mm.
end of the tunnel. I
Yes.
saw the marriage, I
Yes.
saw the kids,
Yes.
I saw the life that I truly had wanted
Mhm.
ever since I was a little girl. And I don't think someone else saying, "I don't know," I don't think that that would have phased me
Yes.
because I was so focused on this is what I want to be married and
Yes.
I want a family.
Well, and it all felt so within your reach, you know, that of course that's your it's your motivation to keep moving towards
Yeah.
that. I understand. I guess the good thing is it sounds like all those people that care about you have stuck with you, you know, and so they're still
Yeah.
there and it's not because I do think I think it's really tough to tell someone like this is not I don't think this is going to work unless there is something very clear that happens that you can, you know, point to.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I think it was very very difficult for my friends. So there's two ways to look at it,
Mhm.
and I say this because of something my mom said. They knew it was not a good relationship.
Okay.
They knew that we had gotten divorced. They knew it was ugly.
Mhm.
I think hearing the 50 parts and hearing what really went down,
Mhm.
I really think I know for my mom it broke her heart
Oh,
because she did not know her daughter went through all this.
yes.
She knew it wasn't good, but I think to hear the details of the things that he has said and the things that he did and the mind games, I think for a lot of friends and family, it was really like, girl, I did not know
Yeah.
it was that bad.
Mm.
And I have coworkers who said the same thing, who knew she, went through a divorce and it was a difficult time. But then they hear the story and that they have reached out to me and said, I had no idea you were going through all that
Wow.
when this happened in real time.
Yes. What do you think it was that kept you from sharing the details of what was going on?
Embarrassment,
Yeah.
sheer embarrassment.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the embarrassment factor is something I will be honest, I still
Mm.
sometimes struggle
Mm.
with. I'm getting better at just owning it. I own where I was mentally at the time, but for the longest time, I kept this. I did not talk about it because it was really like one of the things that I said, I think in part 50, how did you let this happen? Like, you
Mm.
are not a dumb woman. How did you let this happen? How did you not see that things were not what they were? And so, you share your story, but you didn't share it for years because you thought you were going to be judged, and when you put it on the internet, you do get judged.
Yes.
You do get a lot of criticism. And so the very reason I didn't want to share it
Mm.
is exactly what, initially happened, which was a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, a lot of, what felt like backlash. And
Yes.
so it does make you feel like, man, I shouldn't have said anything. And I did have moments where I felt that way. Like I should not have said anything.
Yeah. Well, you know, I understand there is that side of it, but also, you know, one of the reasons that it became what it did was because people could relate, maybe not to the whole story, but to bits of it, you know, and that's why people
Mhm.
were watching and like, okay, I wonder what's going to happen next because they had had some of those experiences, you know, and I think because then people don't talk about it because they're embarrassed, then everyone feels like it's just them and they keep it to themselves. And you gave people an opportunity to say like, I am a smart person. This is not, you know, I was vulnerable here. I was going through these challenges, and it could even happen to me. It could happen to any of us, you know, and not taking
Yeah.
on the things that he did. I mean, I hear you like in owning your part of it, but not taking on all the things that he did that you couldn't even imagine someone would do, and making that,
Mhm.
your burden. So,
Yeah. Um, Initially, I did feel like I was about the dumbest person on earth. And the only one who had ever been,
yes.
because again, all I saw was negativity.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so there were moments where I said to myself, well, I guess I'm the only one who's ever been played before to this level. Because it seemed like everybody was like, this could never be me. I heard that so
Mm-mm.
much. This could never be me. This would never be
Mm.
me. And I really felt like, dang, maybe it is just me. And
Yeah.
so I understand the people who say to me the same thing happened and I didn't want to tell my story
Yes.
because I was ashamed. I
Yes.
get
You
it.
do.
I absolutely get it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So speaking of that, what do you want people to remember about your story? Like not, the scandal or the part that feels entertaining to people, but what do you want them to remember about your story and about you?
The big thing is I hope that people remember she went through something ugly.
Hmm.
She fell, she got her heart broken, it blew up in her face, it was debris everywhere.
Everywhere.
But um but damn it, that girl, she got back up,
Mm. Yes.
you know? Um she's making the most of opportunities to not, to do better
Hmm.
and to help somebody else. It's not,
Yes.
about, oh, I'm trying to be, some multimillionaire and get brand deals with, you know brands or whatever. It really is trying to stay authentic
Mm.
in hopes that your authentic voice actually helps somebody, because you know what it's like when you felt like you were all by yourself.
Yes. Yes, I do think,
And
yeah. Sorry.
that's the thing that I hope is that people are like, you got to give it to her. She put it out there, like she
Yes.
owned it. She
Yeah.
put it out there, and it opened the doors for other people to say, this is my story.
Yes.
Because one thing I want people to always remember, and I've been saying this, there's this notion of, girl, my story or ReesaTeesa's story has nothing on my story. And I've been saying, to people, pain is pain.
Yeah.
To take, to quote Scandal, pain is pain, and to
I love
quote
Scandal.
and to take measure
Yes.
is a form of cruelty.
Yes.
Your pain is no less or no more than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is your story,
Yes.
and you have the right to share your story. And so I don't ever want there to feel as though there has to be a comparison, that one trauma is worse than the other
Mm-hmm.
trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma is
That's
trauma,
right.
and it manifests in different ways. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through, but there are some people who are in worse situations than what I
Yes.
went through.
Yes.
And I hope that they, for a moment, feel like, okay, I'm not by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was this one chick in Atlanta who kind of went through the same thing, and she told her story and she got through it. So why can't
Yes.
I?
Yes.
That's
I
what.
think so. And it's really interesting talking about with social media. Like there's the people who are like, okay, that could never be me, and other people are like, okay, that was me,
Mhm,
or even like I went through that
mhm,
and this, and I think that that kind of feeds into this like image that people want to present of themselves, on social media. And of course,
mhm.
that's where your story went live, and so it's been valuable for people to have that, but then also to see all the things that you've experienced since then. How do
Yeah.
I know you have like the protective measures and everything, but still like be active on social media and still, be your authentic self, knowing that it's this double-edged sword. Is that difficult for you?
So initially it was difficult because there's this idea that you went viral, you need to keep going viral.
Ah,
Everything you do needs to have 2.7 million
yes.
views. You need to get 3 million more followers in a week. Um, and it's exhausting.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not a content creator. Before this story, I had 8,000 followers because I would go live driving my commute to work. Um, I keep saying I'm just me.
Yes.
I will post something if it feels funny to do
Mm-hmm.
so, I will post a story if I have an actual story to post. I'm
Yes.
not going to make one up
Mm-hmm.
just to, oh, our story time queen is back. No. Like I'm going to be quiet. I'm a watch,
Yeah.
and when something is funny, I'll comment
Mm-hmm.
and I'll reshare a video or I'll like it because that's me.
Yes.
I'm not trying to duplicate the 50-part
I don't want
series.
you to have to
I'm
go
not
through that
trying to
again either, Risa.
yeah,
To have another
and I'm
story.
also not trying I'm not trying to get more material
Mm-hmm.
to
That's
have a new 50-part
right.
series either. I want to share with people what's going on because I'm fully aware
Mm.
that a lot of the blessings I have
Mm.
came from millions of people watching this story, and I understand that they're like, "So what are you up to?" So, as the show, progresses, as the book progresses, I share what I can share legally.
Yes.
um, and just still put my own little twist on it. Like
Yeah.
I take people along this journey.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you're figuring out that balance of like keeping some things personal, and sharing
Mhm.
other things as well. Because I imagine that there is a lot of pressure to share everything. Now people feel like they know you, even though they really don't.
Yeah.
And so they want probably to know every day what's going on with you. And so
Yeah.
for you, like, is keeping that some things to yourself, is that important to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is it's a no-brainer to keep some things to
Yeah.
myself and to share things that I can like for me, I think that there's this idea that I'm living in some 5.5 bedroom mansion, chilling, working in Hollywood, working on a show
Yeah.
and writing a
Hmm.
book, and I have, dinner with like Kim
Oh,
Kardashian
you
or
don't?
Khloe Kardashian. And the fact of the matter is, I like to show, hey y'all, get ready with me as I gotta go to work.
Yes.
Because so I'm gonna have my hair in flexi
Yep.
rods and I'm gonna talk because that's me. I still gotta go to work. I still
Hmm.
have to be there by
Yes.
8 o'clock, sometimes 9, depending on how I feel. And I still have things that people I have to answer to.
Hmm.
Life is different. So there is these two worlds. There's the ReesaTeesa world,
Yes.
and then there's the Teresa world. And I like showing the two because I want to encourage people. It is okay if you have a 9 to 5.
Yes.
It's okay. Social media may make you think that you should quit to be a content creator. It's okay to have a
Yes.
9 to 5. Trust me. Let me show you. Like that's my attitude.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I mean, because you sharing your story, yes, and showing you like your vulnerability and all the pain that you've been through, but also how you're dealing with like that notoriety, that fame, and
Mhm.
staying true to yourself and remaining authentic, because we don't usually get that side of it. We get, okay, they rocketed to fame, and then that's their life, and I think that
Mhm.
probably people really appreciate that you're like, that's not the whole thing, and that's not all
Yeah.
of who I am, right? I'm also this other person who has
Mhm.
these other priorities and things that are important to me, and not just what you saw if you watched that series and it was like sensationalized and everything, that you are a real person.
Yeah. And I try to always convey that.
Yeah.
Like even even if people see me, and they want to meet me, I love it. Like I'm never going to be too uppity
Yeah.
to be like, no, I'm not taking pictures. I'm not doing that. I refuse. I
Yeah.
refuse to do that. When people meet me and they're nervous, I'm like, okay, girl. Like I talk like sister girl to sister girl. Okay, are you good? Because I'm about to hug you. So are you good? Because again, I never wanted to come across as like you forgot
Yes.
that you used to make payment arrangements with Georgia Power. Like, don't you forget where you came from. Don't ever start thinking that, nah, I don't want to take pictures. I don't want to meet anyone walking around with sunglasses. No. And I love the fact that I have friends who will slap me to keep me from
So
ever
important to
being that
keep
type
those
of
people
person.
around you who are like, girl,
Yeah.
come on, come on. Be for real. Yes.
Like, girl, stop. Your edges are showing. Stop. Stop.
Oh my God, yes. I love that. I love that. Well, Teresa, it has been so amazing talking to you and hearing your story. And I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you showing this full story and sharing that with us today. If people want to know more about what you're working on and upcoming projects, I mean, we know TikTok, but how else can people find out what's happening with you?
I have an Instagram, the real ReesaTeesa, and then also, excuse me, Instagram is ReesaTeesa. I have a YouTube, the real ReesaTeesa, and I'm really kind of focusing the YouTube on like the longer format
Yes.
stuff. So when I'm on trips, just showing everything that's going on, so I'm not in that 10-minute window.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I'm on social media, ReesaTeesa.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing everything with
Thank
us today.
you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast and rate the podcast episodes. For more on what I'm doing, you can find me on social media at Therapy with Dr. Patrice.